This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. I'm here with George Roach, the CEO of Premier African Minerals, in person in London, where, George, you've been for a few days, haven't you? What have you been doing here in the country?
Yeah, well, mainly here to meet and greet and discuss with our shareholders and so on. But as much, what a pleasure to be like this in person.
In person.
Makes a change.
I know.
Makes a change.
Different from Zoom, yeah. It's nice to see you in person.
Yeah,
so you're looking forward
indeed.
to the event tonight, hoping for lots
of
investors to come along?
No, very much so. I always look forward to these. I think that it's an opportunity to communicate, just like we're doing in person.
Yeah.
I think it makes a big difference.
Well, I hope lots of people turn up and enjoy the presentation and ask you lots of questions. I've been sent an awful lot of questions to me and, of course, to the Prem email. And the first one, I'm just going to put them to you straight as they've pretty much come. So the first one I have you had any offers to buy Zulu?
Not direct, fixed, that I would need to take to the Prem board. Much interest, as I'd previously announced. At one time we were negotiating with as many as 11 different companies. There were many suggestions as to what the valuation could be and what kind of deals could be done. But no direct cash offer. And I could not, in fact, today even enter into a negotiation because we have given Sushu an undertaking for a period of time that we would not negotiate with anybody other than them.
Are there any plans to pay dividends in the future or buy back shares?
I'd much rather pay dividends than buy back shares, to be perfectly honest with you, as a shareholder myself. That's something that we'll have to address, but only when we're profitable. Hopefully that's going to be pretty soon. But today, no, I can't really conclude which it would be.
Okay. How do Prem plan to manage the repayment of the loan against generating cash to invest in further exploration within Zulu or indeed the EPO?
Okay, so the way the repayment works is that the total value of the sales will be retained almost on a cash sweep basis by Sushu, net of all OPEX, all management fees, all normal operating expenses as budgeted and as set out by Prem. And the intention is that that will be adequate to cover our operations within the expanded EPO and within the context of other explorations.
Okay, so there is a plan to manage it?
Oh, absolutely, and that's being dealt with contractually.
Okay. Can you give any more information on the discount price, what the base minimum price covers, i.e. OPEX, CAPEX, royalties, tax, margin, etc.? Have you got anything you can give on that?
Well, going back to that, that minimum price would leave us with a healthy profit based on current spodumene prices as are at the moment. Our internal forecasts confirm that. So I'm completely comfortable that with that base minimum price, at least until the end of 2023, that we're in a very comfortable position.
Okay. Now this is an interesting one. How many offers did you have and what was the minimum and maximum offer? And can you disclose who made the offer?
I can't. All the negotiations with all 11 odd people were all under confidentialities. So really, I couldn't.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you a slightly different question then. Do you have an ideal buyout price and a timeline for when that might happen, i.e. before production, post-production?
No, I don't. But I do believe that if there is going to be such a buyout, it's going to come when, at a time, it's clear to everybody that what we're doing with the pilot plant is working, that there is spodumene being shipped out. And I think that's when you're going to see a real unlocking of the real underlying value within Zulu.
Okay.
So if it's coming at any time, it's going to come then.
And
I don't know where we want to sell it. What would we want to sell it for? I also don't know.
No.
We've seen prices in Zim for some other assets. I think Zulu's better.
Okay.
But that's a personal opinion.
Okay. And a timeline in mind, George, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think that if Zulu is operating properly and profitably, is there a need to do so? If we're in a position where we start buying back or giving dividends or whatever it may be, is there a need to do so? So I think that's a future question.
Okay.
I really don't know the answer to that just yet.
We'll keep it for the future then, and I'll bring it back time.
We'll
and time
do.
again. Now, Shore Capital are your brokers.
Yes.
Is there any analysis, research note, that kind of thing, or can they create one?
There isn't yet, but I have met with Shore Capital now that I'm now in London, and not that long ago I've had guys from Shore Capital at site, shown them around, taken them to Zulu, various other things. They, I believe, will be in a position to give us a decent research update note as soon as we can get to a point of announcing an indicated resource that will allow us at the same time to look at the economics and to publish the economics and give some guidance on what we expect.
Okay. So my follow-on to that would be, again, when would you hope that to be?
My exploration manager will kill me if I give an answer on that one, but it's getting much closer. We've resolved many of the difficulties that we were having with getting assay results in. We've sorted out a lot of the geology, adjusted the actual geological model, got sections going very nicely, had proper surveys done, and all of this is coming together very nicely at the moment. So I don't want to put a capped timeline on it that for some reason I can't meet, but it's going to be in the fairly near future.
Now, what lessons have been learned from previous delivery challenges at RHA, and how will these be implemented at Zulu to reduce the delivery risk?
Well, let's just have a look at those specific challenges at RHA, and then I can give you the mitigation and where they differ. First of all, at RHA, we used an independent geologist who was a well-known one, who gave us a resource model that was flawed. So that was the first thing. This time, we're using a lot of our own geos internally, and we're using independent external consultancies to sign off on the overall resource. So the level of confidence in the resource was much higher. So trying to eliminate geological risk. The second thing that went wrong at RHA was in the plant design. There were shortcomings in the original test work, there were shortcomings in the original plant design. They were not identified in advance of actually installing the original plant. So their recoveries originally were very poor. This time there's been much more extensive test work done in a number of different locations, in Germany and elsewhere, and the care with which we've gone about looking at the plant, the details of the plant and so on, are at a completely different level. The sensor-based sorting, we have good, strong, positive data that shows that it does work. So that's the next component of it. And then the third component was price. When RHA started, it was, wolframite was about $450 odd, a metric ton unit, dropped to less than 150 in a very short period of time. Looking at the fundamentals related to spodumene, we do not see that the bottom is going to fall out of this price just yet. Demand is very strong. All the forecasts are not seeing demand being met. The earliest, I suppose, is 2024, but there are a lot of people saying it's not going to happen until 2028. We've got an underwritten floor price as well. So I think those are the three biggest mitigations and biggest examples of what's been learned and what we've done to avoid a similar problem.
Okay, and that gives you confidence going forward then? Not
Absolutely.
Okay, excellent. Out of the 21,000 metres of drilling which has been delivered to date, how many metres have been tested with the results back from the lab?
We had to go back and do a lot of revalidation of results. And then there were other difficulties associated with compiling these, because a spread of 50 elements would come through, but they were not necessarily in the same sequence. It was not easy to pick this up and just transport and import the data. There were a number of these issues. So there are a lot more assays coming out now. They are being checked and validated as we go, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to be coming out with some more RNSs. Kona manje.
Okay. Well,
that means quickly in Zulu.
Quickly in Zulu. You learn something new, don't you, every day? Maybe I'll ask you later if you have time to give your exploration manager a ring and we can get an update on that.
Yes, of course.
Now, what is the latest with M&H? Have they made any repayments on the loan from Prem?
No, they haven't. I think if you looked at our annual financials, M&H's performance last year was not great. I'm uncertain at this stage as to how we're going to go forward. We are taking some steps. We're not attempting to bring this to a head and to bring it to a successful head. Underlying everything that has happened is the fact that it's a good resource and properly run and properly managed does have a very strong place in the future. So we've got to get a handle on it, we've got to get a handle on them, we've got to reach some final decisions which we have not taken at this stage.
Okay. Do you feel it was justified or necessary to grant the significant number of share options to yourself in late May?
And many others. And the quantum of share options that Premier has issued is significantly lower by percentage terms than is often the case on AIM. It's a long time since anybody in Prem had any kind of incentive-based reward such as this, and there are a lot of us who've made huge commitments over a long period of time. So I'm confident and I'm comfortable, and it's the opinion of independent parties that we went to as well, that this is well within acceptable limits and represents good incentives.
Okay. How is Prem finding the workforce environment? Are you managing to find the right people?
That's a challenge. We're already interviewing. We're interviewing right now and looking hard in Zimbabwe. Finding the skills generally are good in Zimbabwe. There's some very good mining skills and knowledgeable people. We just got to track them down, make sure they're the right ones, make the appointments, and we're looking to get it done now, well in advance of later in November, December, when things are going to really start happening at site.
So you mentioned it's a bit of a challenge. Do you think that could be a problem, or do you think you can handle it?
No, that we can handle.
You can handle it. Okay. How many people are you looking to recruit?
In all, the mine will employ around about 70 to 75 people directly. The independent mining contractor will have his own team, which will be another 30 or 40 people.
Okay.
And he'll run the yellow metal that's going to go and dig holes in the ground and bring it to the plant and so on and so forth.
Okay, good. Now, can you share any details, re water supply, plans for the dam and clearance?
Sure. There'll actually be 2 dams built eventually. Bear in mind the pilot plant is an initial situation. It'll have a life of maybe 2.5, 3 years maximum, maybe less. Depends how quickly we get the DFS finished and how quickly we decide to move on to the next stage. So the initial dam will be built somewhat upstream from the little river that runs through. That'll hold about 1.1, 1.2 million cubic meters initially. The plant's requirement is 300,000 cubic meters per annum, more or less, at this stage. So it's comfortable, and that construction access to the site has already been obtained, construction starting now, imminently. It's the dry season, it can be built pretty quickly, and it's on a wonderful site. Subsequent to that, we'll have a much bigger dam that will be built. And that bigger dam is going to not just benefit the larger mine, but it's going to benefit the wider community massively. It's going to open up other agricultural opportunities, irrigation opportunities, water for local village. It's a big infrastructure project that's going to do a lot, not just for us, but for the community as well.
Excellent. Good. Just on that theme then of work starting on site, what do you have a target date for when equipment is starting to arrive on site?
Well, the first equipment items should be ready to move sometime late in November. I think the majority late in December, towards the end of December, and the final item probably around about the middle of January.
Okay.
The nature of the equipment is that it's modular and can be assembled very quickly on site. And I think that the company that's putting it together can give you a lot more detail on that. But we're very comfortable that the build time at site is going to be rapid, and is going to be effective and efficient because of the fact that it's modular, pre-tested, stripped, put in containers, shipped, and reassembled. That's it.
Okay, good. Well, with all that activity going on site, I know last time we spoke, you mentioned you wanted to put a camera up if possible, but certainly deliver some media, and people are keen to see that. A question I have: will there be plenty of visual updates so PIs can see the progress? And also, would you consider employing a PR company to really help ramp up and spread the word?
Well, first of all, access to the media there will be, and that will continue. And I think at the moment there's a fair amount of this coming out. I engaged an internal investor relations, I suppose is the word, but really her main function is to communicate with shareholders who wish to communicate with us. I was not always able to respond as I should, so at least we now are able to respond very quickly. And Vilna is her name, works very closely with Ben at Level 27 and with others to get that message out. And this is going to be an accelerating process. I want people to see what's happening. I'd love to put a live camera up there, do one of these live feeds like out of a game reserve somewhere, but there may be some concerns as to what you might see, what you might not.
Indeed.
But we will definitely actively enhance the level of visual communication that we have.
Excellent. Now, earlier this year, you mentioned in an interview that the resource upgrade statement for Zulu is a priority. Now, having more than 22,000 metres of drilling done, can we expect to see the rust to come in the coming days?
No, not in the coming days, but in the near future. I've discussed that on quite a few different occasions already, and I think let me make the point that when Sushu invested with us, we were able to refocus our exploration program and to concentrate in a very tight drilling pattern on upgrading and identifying the best and most economical aspects of this deposit to mine initially with the pilot plant. So a lot of work has gone into that, and our internal team is very happy with what they're seeing. They're very comfortable with what's coming out of it, and that's one of the reasons why we've been able to go down the pilot plant route as quickly as we did.
Okay. How much discount percentage-wise is given on the contract price?
For so long as we have not repaid the debt, there is a 10% discount that will apply. It's a discount that is subject to consent by the MMCZ in Zimbabwe, but we believe that until such time as the debt is settled on the prepayment, that it's appropriate. The guys have made a big commitment to us. It's a big statement putting out that much money. So I think it's appropriate.
Okay, appropriate. And what's the percentage royalty that's being paid to the Zimbabwean government?
The percentage royalty on export minerals is 3.5% at the moment. I think there might be a little bit of talk in the background that this may change. But I think what is more important is that the mines department are encouraging us very strongly to get into production. And then the secondary step on that is that having retained, once the initial prepayment is settled, having retained the rights to market and deal with 50% of the spodumene that we produce, I think we're in a very strong position to start looking at perhaps doing a carbonate or something like that in Zimbabwe. That has always been our intention, was to do something more, but this is step by step. Step one, pilot plant, spodumene production. The additions beyond that, leading up to the full-blown plant going into production, will allow us to process petalite. At some point in time, we're going to take a tantalite-rich fraction that's possibly even got a bit of tin in it. We'll be able to process that. And we'll see what happens with the mica-lepidolite fraction, which is where there's a fair amount of lithium there, but there's also a bit of rubidium and some cesium that may be collected there as well. So those are all things that will come out of the pilot plant, and we'll work on those as we go into the future.
Well, that's all the questions that were sent to me, George, and thank you very much for taking the time to answer them. I hope investors are happy. George Roach there, the CEO of Premier African Minerals here in London at the Chesterfield Hotel, where the Prem Investor Evening has been held. Thank you very much for watching, and follow us on Twitter at StockboxMedia, or stockboxmedia.com is our website. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stockboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.